Hello, and welcome back to the next episode of the Perfectly Imperfect Spiritual Podcast. If you're new here, my name is Marta, and I work in a space where spiritual awareness is not something abstract or distant, but something that is meant to live inside your decisions, your relationships, and the way you meet yourself in the most ordinary yet defining moments of your life. And today, I want to take you into something that is far more precise than confusion because what I see again and again in the people I work with and in my own life is not a lack of clarity. It is something much quieter, much more refined, and in many ways, much more confronting. It is the moment where you already know and you still choose to stay. Not because you're lost, not because you're incapable of change, but because something in you is still more loyal to what is familiar than to what is true. And this is where I want to slow everything down because this moment doesn't feel dramatic when it happens. It doesn't arrive as a breakthrough. It doesn't feel like transformation. It feels almost insignificant, a brief pause, a subtle internal shift, a quiet recognition that something is not fully right, and then almost immediately you move away from it, not in an obvious way, not in a way that would alarm you, but in a way that feels reasonable, measured, even wise. You contextualize it, you soften it, you give it more time, and what is interesting here is that externally, nothing appears wrong. Your life continues, everything remains intact, but internally, something has already shifted. Because the moment you saw clearly, a part of you moved forward, and the moment you chose to stay, another part of you remained behind. And this creates a very subtle but very real internal division. And this is where most people begin to feel something they cannot fully explain, a quiet dissatisfaction, a sense that something is missing, a feeling that things are not landing the way they should. And they begin to look for answers externally. They try to change their environment, they try to improve their situation, but the origin of that feeling is not outside of them. It is the distance between what they know and how they are living. And this is where we need to go deeper because this is not only emotional, it is not only psychological, it is also energetic. The moment you recognize something as true, your system reorganizes around it, your body registers it, your awareness stabilizes around it. Your energy begins to move in that direction. And when you don't follow that movement, it doesn't disappear, it compresses. And that compression is basically what you experience as tension, as restlessness, as a subtle yet persistent sense that something is not quite aligned, something's off. And what makes this even more complex is that the part of you that is staying often has very valid reasons. It wants stability, it wants safety, it wants continuity, it wants to avoid disruption. And so, this is not a battle between right and wrong, it is a tension between what is known and what is ready to emerge. And the question is not, why am I stuck? The question is, why and what am I still protecting by staying where I am? And if you sit with that honestly and allow anything to come through to you, you'll begin to see something very clearly, that staying is not neutral, it's a choice. Even when it feels like waiting, And this is where your awareness begins to mature because you stop seeing yourself as someone who is trying to figure things out, and you begin to see yourself as someone who is making decisions, even in stillness. And from that place, something changes. Because now, instead of asking, what should I do? You begin to ask, what am I already not allowing myself to do? And that question requires a different level of honesty. So instead of giving you more concepts, I want to take you somewhere deeper, not into thinking, but into direct experience. So if you can, allow yourself to slow down. Let your body settle, let your attention drop inward. And if it feels comfortable, you can close your eyes and imagine for a moment that you're standing at the edge of two spaces. Behind you is everything that is familiar, the life you have built, the roles you have learned to play, the dynamics that you know how to navigate. And in front of you, there is something quieter, less defined, but there is a sense of expansion there. Not louder, not more impressive, but more true. And you don't need to know exactly what it is. You just need to feel the difference. Behind you, there is familiarity, predictability, a certain kind of safety, but also a slight contraction. In front of you, there is uncertainty, but also space. And now I want you to notice something. You are not being pushed in either direction. There's no force, no urgency, just awareness. And I want you to feel what happens in your body when you turn slightly towards what is in front of you, not stepping fully, just allowing your body to orient in that direction. What changes? Is there expansion? Is there resistance? Is there hesitation? And now, very gently, bring your attention to your chest, to your solar plexus, to your body as a whole, and notice where you feel openness and where you feel contraction, because your body is not confused, it is responding. And now, I want you to stay here for a moment, not deciding, not forcing, just allowing yourself to feel both. The pull of what you know and the pull of what is familiar. And I want to offer you something here. You don't need to rush, but you also do not need to pretend you don't see. And just let that land. You don't need to force change, but you also do not need to keep negotiating your own clarity. And now slowly bring in these words, not as affirmations to convince yourself, but as anchors to return to. I am allowed to recognize what is true for me. I am allowed to recognize what is true for me. One more time. I am allowed to recognize what is true for me. I do not need to justify my knowing. I do not need to justify my knowing. I do not need to justify my knowing. I can stay with myself even when it feels unfamiliar. I can stay with myself even when it feels unfamiliar. I can stay with myself even when it feels unfamiliar. I can allow change to emerge without forcing it. I can allow change to emerge without forcing it. One more time. I can allow change to emerge without forcing it. And most importantly, I am no longer willing to leave myself in the moment where I'm clear. I am no longer willing to leave myself in the moment where I am clear. I am no longer willing to leave myself in the moment where I am clear. Just stay with that. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes if you had them shut. Come back. And what I want to leave you with is this: your life doesn't change in the moment you understand something. It changes in the moment you stop pretending that you don't. And that moment is much quieter than people expect. But it is also the moment where everything begins to reorganize, not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped moving away from yourself. And that is not a small shift. That is the beginning of real alignment. And that is where your authority lives, not in what you say, not in what you know, but in what you are no longer willing to override. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for allowing yourself to meet this level of honesty. And in something during this conversation today landed for you, stay with it. Let it work for you. Thank you. Bye.